Hi guys, welcome back to Mull. I've come indoors today because the weather is horrendous outside. You might be able to see that tree blowing a bit behind me. Chucking it down outside, so never very good for shooting videos. And today's message from Mull is about the nervous system and how it responds to pain, and especially long term, what we're often referred to as chronic pain. So your nervous system comprises of your brain, your spinal cord, and quite a complex network of nerves which send signals to and from different cells in your body, glands, muscle tissue, that sort of thing. And the body receives information from your environment via these signals and responds in a way primarily to keep you alive. But the input that's coming in from your environment is a sort of ever-changing cocktail, chemical cocktail. And the receptors that you have connect to your brain to help form your senses. So things like vision, hearing, smell, taste, and touch as well. Now, these receptors, where the information is coming in from, they can't feel as such. And this is something that's quite interesting when it comes to long-term pain. So for example, if I was over there at my hob and it was on and I passed my hand over one of the sort of the gas rings when it was on, I would feel heat. And the feeling will be felt in my hand, but the receptors in there can't actually feel. So what's happening is the receptors are sending a signal to my brain, which is being interpreted as heat. So the feeling part is really in here. It's not on the hand. And as I say, that is quite an interesting concept and hard for people to get their head around, but that is quite important to understand when it comes to our long-term perception of pain and chronic pain especially. So your receptors, your body's receptors send billions of impulses into your brain every second, into your central nervous system, spinal cord and brain. And we interpret those impulses as either pleasant, as neutral, or unpleasant. If they are pleasant, we get a release of chemicals that help us to feel rewarded, basically, or happy, excited, content, and relaxed as well. If we are facing a situation where the input is unpleasant, we get a release of stress chemicals. Now, these are things like adrenaline and cortisol. And these are chemicals that are designed to avoid danger, make us more alert. Initially, they'll make us more anxious, but they're designed to be turned on for short periods of time. They're not designed to be turned on for long periods of time. So, for example, if you're walking down the high street and you step out in front of a bus, you'll get a huge release of adrenaline, and the hope is that that will give you a surge of energy and speed and power to get out of the way quickly. So they are a survival mechanism. They're designed for short-term use to fight back or get the hell out of there. Hence the fight or flight response. But the fight or flight response is not designed to be turned on long term. And if it is, the anxiety that creates is intolerable. It doesn't matter how strong you think you are, long-term anxiety has a huge impact on the human body. And it's not something we can live with long term. Of course, the problem is that if you're experiencing long-term pain, then that response will be turned on long term. And that's when we start to get a lot of mental health issues, as well as perhaps the original structural problem that may have kicked the process off. So a good way to think of this actually is if you can remember a time when you've had a heated argument with somebody close to you, a loved one, a colleague, close friend, and perhaps you haven't seen eye to eye about something, you've had a heated argument. And quite often after that has finished, you get that sort of sickly feeling in your stomach. And that comes about because when you get a big release of adrenaline, blood flow is diverted to arms and legs, which is normally a survival process. It'll help you either fight back or run away. And that lack of blood around the stomach, especially if you've got quite a bit of food in there, will leave you feeling sickly, and quite often with a stomach ache as well. But if you think about it, there is no structural problem in there. There is no issue with your digestive tract or your stomach. It's just been a change in your chemical cocktail. It's been a change in blood flow because of a stressful situation. But it leaves you with pain. So you have pain even though there is no structural problem with your stomach. And that is the nuts and bolts of long-term chronic pain for many, many people, where the stressful situation that they're in because they're perceiving pain exacerbates the problem and keeps it going relentlessly. So long-term stressful situations, a sort of negative bias in the brain and release of stress chemicals can make pre-existing conditions feel worse, or old underlying conditions can be reignited. So old pain pathways, said you had an old back injury and it had been relieved, and then you experience a particularly stressful point in your life, those old pathways can be reignited and kick off again. And a lot of people think that there's a new injury or there's been some sort of structural change, but actually it's their mental outlook that has changed, and that has caused the increase in pain. So although a lot of people will tell folks it's all in your head, so people that have got experiencing long-term pain, if you haven't been in that situation before, sometimes people are told it must be in your head. Well, it is, but it doesn't mean that it's not 100% real, and it doesn't mean it's a horrible, visceral experience for that individual. It may not be the pain they're feeling may not equate to the actual problem that's there in terms of a structural issue, but they are perceiving it because their central nervous system has been dialed up, and everything's on overload, and they're far more sensitive because of repeated sort of pain impulses over time. So dialing down the nervous system and calming the nervous system is usually one of the best ways to combat long-term pain. It might not take it away completely, but it will certainly maybe bring it down from an 8, 9 out of 10 to more tolerable levels like a 3, 4. And that's something that we work very hard at Healthy Options. And going forward in the weeks ahead, we're going to have a look at ways of doing that, and also trying to understand perhaps how we got to that situation in the first place. So have a nice day, guys, and I'll catch up with you soon. Let's hope this weather improves. Bye-bye.